So we have Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 14, and in this chapter, Boruto was interrogated by the Leaf Village after his battle against Hidari, following the banger chapter of Boruto chapter 13, where we got the flashback between Boruto meeting Kashin Koji for the first time and the concept of prescience. Boruto was detained by Konoha after him and Sarada were able to take down the legs of Hidari. Now entering this chapter, Boruto does wake up, where he is restrained to a table where he is in front of the legs of Konohamaru and Ibiki. Unlike the past few chapters in TBV, where it has been very action-packed and a lot of combat that has been occurring, this chapter takes a much slower approach when it comes to the dialogue and information that was presented to us. While this was another info dumping chapter, I do have to say I really like these kind of chapters because we get more of the nuances for the upcoming setup for the following chapters of TBV, such as the interactions between Konohamaru, Shikamaru, Mitsuki, and how they view Boruto right now. Because even though Boruto has been detained and has been put into detention where he is going to be interrogated, we see how Shikamaru and Mitsuki perceive Boruto right now, and that is the fact that they are going to help Boruto get out, as shown later in this chapter, whereas someone like Konohamaru is still following Konoha's protocols in order to deal with Boruto, who in his eyes and basically everyone in the Leaf Village, they view him as a traitor who killed the 7th Hokage. Anyways, heading into this chapter, after Boruto does awaken in the interrogation room, Konohamaru reminds Boruto that he cannot escape, thanks to him being in a sealing jutsu cuffs that was crafted by Amato, so no amount of weaving signs or any type of jutsu activation will allow Boruto to escape, and even by using his brutal strength, that will just hurt Boruto even beyond. Konohamaru informs Boruto that the enemies that were present before had run off, and everyone else that was involved is alive and well, despite a few casualties of course, even though they're all just fodder ninjas. Anyways, the page after, we see Inojin getting healed by Sakura, who we do see for the first time in Blue Vortex, where she is healing Inojin from the wounds that he sustained when he did try to bomb rush Jura. Obviously we do know Himawari was the one who did heal Inojin in the end after she did awaken her Nine Tails power, which to even Sakura's surprise, Inojin's wounds were completely healed, and the only thing that needs to be done is for him to get his Chakra Fruit back after it was disrupted. Anyways, Boruto's interrogation finally begins, where the likes of Konoha is overwatching him, and as well as with Ada, who using her Senringan, where she is able to view the interrogation in real time, where she does inform Kawaki about this event. Damon then goads Kawaki about Boruto potentially snitching on Kawaki about the fact that he was the one who flipped the omnipotence on him, and even though people will not be able to believe that Boruto and Kawaki's positions were flipped in the first place, Kawaki did lie to the village that Naruto was killed. Obviously, Kawaki was the one who sealed him away. However, according to the village's knowledge, they believe that Boruto was the one who actually delivered the killing blow, since the village cannot sense Naruto's chakra after all. And if the Leaf Village is able to get sniff of that, the fact that Kawaki did lie, this will definitely change Kawaki's position amongst the Leaf Village, especially amongst the people of Konoha. Let's not forget, Shikamaru does know about the truth between Boruto and Kawaki. Even though he was informed about omnipotence, you'll see later in this chapter, he actually doesn't remember the concept of it, even though he does understand Boruto's current situation. Kawaki at this moment doesn't seem to really care, because no matter what, it won't really change anything, considering that he seems to put the blame on Naruto disappearing onto Boruto. He does say that a dangerous OTSUTSUKI who could rampage at any moment is from Boruto, and that killing him is the Leaf Village's only option in order to stay safe, whether it's now or later. And that's very interesting because this has always been Kawaki's goal, but what I've noticed in the last chapter was that when Boruto was put in a position where he could die, Kawaki didn't go for the kill. Let's not forget, after Jura sniped Boruto across Konoha, Kawaki did see Boruto on the ground and he just didn't go for the kill. And it's very interesting because obviously we did see Boruto and Kawaki did fight just for a little bit, and Kawaki did get embarrassed, but he knows deep down that there is going to be, at any given moment, Boruto could lose control of his body and Momoshiki can take over. I've been talking about it for a while. I've made a few videos on it, of course, with the fact that Momoshiki is lurking somewhere, right? Even though there has been a few hints and mentions of him so far in TBV, we actually haven't seen Momoshiki speak, whether it's in Boruto's consciousness or him awakening through Boruto's body outright. And Kawaki knows this, that whenever Momoshiki awakens through Boruto, especially this version of Boruto who has all of these powers, who's arguably the strongest character in the series, the village would be cooked if Momoshiki ever awakens. And that's why Kawaki, no matter what, he is still determined to kill Boruto. And the information that Boruto has, he still needs that because it looks like Kawaki wants to also take down these Shinjus as well. Anyways, going back to the interrogation, Boruto spills the beans about the Shinju, talking about Jura, Hidari, and the rest of the Shinjus and their goals when it comes to who they are, and with the fact that they have intellectual curiosity for their quest to learn more about the world and gain more information, as well as the goals that they have of devouring certain characters, including the likes of Konohamaru. We also get some more information about Jura, where we learn that he is actually the direct incarnation of the Ten Tails. Unlike the other Shinjus, they are a prototype of a certain character. However, when it comes to Jura, it looks like he is actually the Ten Tails himself, which is something that many of us have been saying for a while, but I'm glad we're getting this information because despite some of these pages being essentially repeat info dumping of stuff that we already know of, I'm glad that the manga is still going deeper when it comes to these Shinjus, considering that these characters are looking like they're going to evolve over time with the more information that they are able to receive. Boruto does explain that in order to stop the Shinjus, they have to take down Jura first, since he is the leader and the main shot caller. And even though this information is very vital for Konoha, Konohamaru doesn't seem to really believe Boruto all the way, and is even asking Boruto where exactly did he get this information from. Boruto does say that he does have a source, but he does not want to reveal his identity, who of course is Kashin Koji. So far in TBV, Koji has been working in cahoots with Boruto in order to protect the Leaf Village and in order to save the world, thanks to his ability of prescience. However, due to his past with him being a clone of Jiraiya, the last thing that he really wants to do is to just walk into Konoha freely and just have people recognize him, is even though he could just sneak in thanks to his DNA being connected to Jiraiya, if the Leaf Village ever discover who Kashin Koji is, that is going to be a massive problem. Considering that Koji has already infiltrated the Leaf Village once, and if they find out about that, they could easily turn that onto Boruto in a situation like this, where Boruto's life is in danger and is at the hands of Konoha since he is currently restrained. Boruto understands that the Leaf Village wants to get back at Boruto, for he is the one to be blamed for killing Naruto. However, he understands that the only reason why he is alive right now is because of the intel that he does have, and that he needs to pass that off to Konoha for them to understand the situation that they are all currently in, because right now killing Boruto really isn't the priority. That even applies to Kawaki as well, as he even says that, yo, as much as I want to kill somebody like Boruto, these mysterious characters, these Shinjus, are much more important, and that's what Boruto's also trying to convey to them right now. And this is where we see the village elders warn Boruto that no matter what, they will kill Boruto in the end. Anyways, Shikamaru goes back to the conversation that he had with Boruto earlier in TBV, where he decides that he is not going to target Boruto even as the Hokage, as despite everyone in the village trying to take down Boruto, he is not going to do that, as he seems to understand that Boruto is in the innocent here and that he and Kawaki switch places. And for some reason, and this is due to the omnipotence and just how strong this jutsu is, even though he was informed on omnipotence, he doesn't even remember the concept of it or even the word. And this is even shown in the manga panels, which is such a cool detail that is shown by Ikimoto and Kishimoto, where Shikamaru is referring to omnipotence. He doesn't even remember the word, and you see in the dialogue that it's left with a blank. I thought this was an error initially, but this is actually really cool, which shows you that Shikamaru was affected by omnipotence, but at the same time, for absolutely no logical reason, he is convinced that Boruto is Boruto Uzumaki. He is currently in the wrong, and that he has to protect Boruto no matter what, or else the Leaf Village could be in danger. Boruto then tells the village elders that Naruto and Hinata are currently alive and that they're in a place somewhere safe. Surprisingly enough though, Boruto doesn't reveal why Naruto is put in another place, as they don't know why he's alive in the first place. Obviously we know the truth, and that is Kawaki was the one who sealed Naruto and Hinata away. But this is where I gotta give Boruto credit, man. He doesn't snitch out his own brother. He could have easily got back at Kawaki for putting the omnipotence on his head by telling the Leaf Village that Kawaki sealed Naruto away, but he decides not to and doesn't want to rat out his brother, since at the end of the day, Boruto does does not have a grudge on Kawaki, even though his life was destroyed by him, and that he just wants to knock some sense into him, as stated in the previous chapter when he was talking to Koji for the first time in the time skip. All while this is going on, Shikamaru contacts Ino via mind transmission jutsu and tells her to connect Boruto to him in order to talk to Boruto. And even though this has been occurring regularly between Boruto and Shikamaru throughout the entirety of TBV, Ino this time flat out refuses simply because she cannot trust Boruto. Let's not forget, Ino-jin almost was just impaled in the past few chapters after he tried to fight Jura, and after witnessing something like that, Ino's not just gonna comply, especially with a traitor who she doesn't understand why Shikamaru is trying to protect in the first place, asking him why he cares about Boruto so much. It's something that she doesn't understand, and even through Shikamaru's logical reasoning, he doesn't understand it either, but he does know that he must protect Boruto or else he will die, especially in a situation like this where the village wants to get back at Boruto for killing Naruto. Heading back into the interrogation, Ibiki has enough and begins to pummel Boruto, trying to get more intel about where exactly Naruto is at. And this is where Shikamaru interrupts this by saying, let's bring in Mitsuki in order to use Venom. Let's not forget about Mitsuki standing toward Boruto currently in TBV, as at the start of the timeskip, Mitsuki was enraged to see Boruto and immediately tried to kill him, considering that he was affected by the omnipotence, and since he does view Kawaki as his son currently, after hearing that Boruto tried to kill Kawaki, Mitsuki wanted to kill Boruto no matter what. However, after their initial scrap back in chapter 7, Mitsuki realized that Boruto is actually his son and that he has his own free will. And this is where we actually see the interaction on how Mitsuki truly feels about Boruto currently in TBV, ever since their initial fight at the start of the time skip. Mitsuki walks into the interrogation room and immediately awakens Sage Mode and tries to attack Boruto right away. However, this was all a facade in order to distract everyone inside of the interrogation room, where Mitsuki does actually unlock the cuffs on Boruto and tells him where his stuff is at, so Boruto can escape with all of his belongings. Before Boruto does leave using his flying Raijin Jutsu, he does tell everyone in the room that he doesn't see anybody inside of Konoha as his foes, and that with the intel that he does have, he is okay with sharing it, and how the Leaf Village will use that intel will be entirely up to them. This is where he immediately leaves. Konohamaru instantly realizes that the only people who can unlock those cuffs are Shikamaru, Ibiki, and himself. We do see a small rewind before Mitsuki entered the interrogation room, where Shikamaru covertly gave Mitsuki the codes to the Boruto's handcuffs to allow him to go free, where at the time he did tell Shikamaru that all shinobi must fulfill their mission no matter what their emotions are currently, and that's where Shikamaru was telling Mitsuki to calm your head and let Boruto out, as funnily enough him using the Sage Mode was just enough to distract everybody to allow Boruto to escape on time. And I really like this interaction in this chapter. I think it's very underrated because this covertly shows that Konohamaru will eventually find out that Shikamaru was the one who is on Boruto's side and is the one also helping him, meaning that Boruto is slowly but surely gaining more allies on his side. He's already got Shikamaru to help him out, as well as Mitsuki, Sarada, and Sumire are on his side as well, and if he can get somebody like Konohamaru, the more the merrier, especially for Boruto's case. Obviously, Boruto won't be sticking around in the Leaf Village anytime soon, since the majority of the village still views him as a traitor, but as long as he can get some of his friends on his side, that is the most important part. And the fact that Boruto already has the Hokage on his side from the jump, that is very important, especially when it comes to dealing with other villages that could be potentially hunting him, and as well as feeding intel, especially toward stopping the Shinjus. Anyways, at the end of the chapter, we see Shikamaru in his office, where he does get a call from Kankuro in the Sand Village, where he does inform Shikamaru that Gaara and Shinki have been taken down. According to Kankuro, Shinki has the tree affliction, where we do see at the very last page of the chapter a brand new Shinju by the name of Ryu, which is the prototype of Shinki. Kankuro asks Shikamaru if he can get some more help, especially with the Kazekage being taken down by the Shinju, and if this is the case, there is a potential case for more Shinju to appear, especially if some of the other Kage are targeted. And with the Sand Village calling for the Leaf's help, we are most likely going into other villages, especially when it comes to this dilemma. Hopefully we get to see more of the Sand Village characters, because when it comes to the Boruto manga, we don't really get to see most of the worlds. Yes, we do get to see some areas, but when it comes to specific villages, we don't really get to see some of the stuff that is going on inside of the Cloud Village or the Sand Village or the Stone Village, for example, right? Everything that is ongoing is inside of the Leaf Village. Obviously, the anime does handle that type of stuff. When it comes to the manga, I would not mind at all to see some of these other characters to finally be involved, especially when it comes to this new Shinju by the name of Ryu. For the upcoming chapter, I think it would be cool to see just how Shinki was caught by the Shinjus, and as well as just how Gaara was taken down, because these new villains are incredibly powerful. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comment section below. How do you guys feel about Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 14? Once again, I think this was another solid chapter. Nothing too crazy. I did like the fact that they did slow things down by showing more of the nuances, especially when it comes to Boruto standing inside of Konoha, and with the fact that Boruto actually decided not to snitch out and rat on Kawaki. I think that is very important, especially with the fact that Kawaki did lie about Naruto being dead. I think that is going to be very important on how Kawaki views Boruto as well, with the fact that he too is also trying to take down the Shinju, as even though he does want to kill Boruto, he obviously does recognize that there are bigger enemies that are presenting a threat to the Leaf Village. In Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 15 titled A Vibrant Life, we are introduced to the brand new Shinju named Ryu, where we do get a flashback on how he was created. Not only that, we do get the team up between Boruto and Kawaki, where Kawaki comes to an understanding that he must deal with the Shinjus first before he even thinks about trying to kill Boruto. Not only that, we do find out that Code and the Shinjus have struck a deal for Code to kill Boruto and Kashin Koji in order for him to gain the Chakra Fruit. Like chapter 14, this was another dialogue heavy chapter. Yes, there was some battling that was ongoing, especially with Gaara and Matsuri. However, there was a lot more dialogue that was much more important for this chapter, not only now, but for the rest of this series. So let's get right into the chapter, man. The chapter starts off with a flashback with Gaara battling Matsuri, where we do see Shinki's team sealed away by Gaara-san. Shinki clearly does not want to be held down and wants to help his father out. However, Gaara has other plans and wants to transport the team out, since they are the youth and he wants to protect them at all costs. We do see Matsuri say to Gaara that the only reason why she came here is to look for Boruto and his accomplices. Matsuri tells Gaara that she doesn't really care about the kids either. Gaara then tries to transport the kids out of the battlefield. However, Shinki resists and actually uses his black sand to break free of Gaara's hold, where he then attacks the clawgrams in the area in order to protect Gaara. Gaara is deeply wounded after all, and knowing that he is fighting someone that is probably way stronger than him, he really doesn't have a chance against a character like Matsuri after all. So with Shinki using magnetic particle barrier palm, he is able to effectively seal Gaara away in a small dome, essentially like a domain expansion to protect him from Matsuri. However, at the same time, one of the clawgrams is able to get a hold of Shinki, where he does turn into a tree. However, while all this is all happening, Shinki is still able to hold up his jutsu, keeping Gaara within the barrier, meaning that Gaara is going to stay in that barrier as long as Shinki has that jutsu activated, even though he has become a tree. And this is what Kankura catches up with Shikamaru about, as he did contact Shikamaru in the prior chapter about what exactly happened to Gaara. Shikamaru says that the Leaf Village is still gathering intel about the Shinjus and what exactly these trees are, knowing that more of these characters are appearing, posing a threat to all of the villages. And even though the Kazekage has been effectively sealed away, just like with Naruto, Kankuro tells Shikamaru not to tell Tamari about this. I imagine that is to reduce any sort of panic, especially since many people in the Leaf Village right now think that Naruto has been killed off. And this applies for the other villages as well. Anyways, we jump back to the Shinju hideout, where we are introduced to Ryu for the very first time. Jura tells Ryu that is the name that he came up with, and he tells him to find his own identity, since that is the most fundamental piece of information that he will ever need. And before he could peer into his own identity, Ryu suddenly grabs someone within the cube, which turns out to be Code. Let's not forget, Code's ability of the claw marks has been passed on to all of the Shinjus, so theoretically, Code could just teleport to any of the Shinjus at any time. This is the first time we have seen Code in a while, man. The last time we saw Code was Boruto Chapter 4, when the Shinjus were created for the first time, thanks to Code manipulating the Tentails with his claw mark ability. Ever since he saw those characters, he dipped from the battlefield, and he hasn't been seen ever since. And I mean, for Code, I do understand why he hasn't been present in the story. Number one, he clearly is not strong enough to fight not only Boruto, but the other Shinjus, as clearly Ryu can just manhandle him whenever he wants, as he pulled him out of the cube with ease, and Code just couldn't do anything at all, right? I understand why Code really has been present for a while, but as someone who has been a Code hater, as you guys know, I do want to see him actually be of use, and once again in this chapter, he is kind of useless once again, even though the story does set him up for something else that will change the trajectory of not only him, but the entire plot of the story. The Shinju's attitudes toward Code is pretty nonchalant, surprisingly, and when they do refer to Code, Jura does say that they all owe their existence because of him. Which is true, because they all are created from the claw marks, which did manipulate the Tentails, which allowed them to develop their own freedom of thought and to do whatever the hell that they want. They aren't enslaved to just devouring OTSUTSUKI, even though that is their plan after all. They have other priorities to take care of, such as killing Boruto, as stated in prior chapters by Jura, who realized that devouring Boruto isn't enough. They have to just kill him outright, simply because he knows too much. They understand that they could just devour Kawaki instead, because he's also an OTSUTSUKI. However, Boruto is a much bigger danger and threat. Code informs Jura that he will devour a Chakra Fruit and inherit Ishiki's will by becoming a new OTSUTSUKI, which does pique Jura's interest. Keep this in mind because Jura is someone who is trying to learn more about the world, and because of his ability to think freely, the Chakra Fruit could be something that Jura may want for himself instead of giving it to Code. Code perceives this as defying him, since he does know that he is the creator of all the Shinjus, so he immediately tries to attack Jura right away. However, this is useless as Code loses his hand after trying to attack him using his claw marks, and once again, my guy Code catches another L. This guy has already lost so many things. He's already lost an eyeball, and now he has lost a hand as well. And we all can see that there is a clear difference between Code and Jura. Jura does thank Code for giving him the ability to think freely, thanks to the claw marks manipulating the Tentails and the other characters coming along with it. However, Jura then gives Code an ultimatum in order to turn his life around, because at this point there's not really anything left for Code to do, if I'm being real here. To be honest, Jura doesn't really have any use of Code after all. However, since he does respect Code for giving him this life after all, he does assign him a mission, and that mission is to kill Boruto and Kashin Koji, simply because Jura does not know who Boruto is working with. Obviously, Jura does know that Boruto has someone working by his side. Boruto knows all of this information, and to be honest with you, I don't think Boruto would be able to gather all this info by himself. We know just how smart Kashin Koji is, and with his use so far, especially with his prescience ability to essentially guide Boruto from dying earlier on, and as well as him accelerating his overall strength in order to fight these characters, Kashin Koji's life is in danger once again. And this is the agreement that Code and Jura are able to come to terms with, where if Code is able to kill Boruto and Kashin Koji, Jura will help Code out on giving him that Chakra Fruit in order for Code to inherit Ishiki's will in order to become an OTSUTSUKI. Now, the chances of Jura giving Code that Chakra Fruit, I'm not sure. Maybe Jura does hold up his end of the promise. However, in the scenario that Code is able to kill Boruto and Koji, what if Jura decides not to give Code a Chakra Fruit and instead keeps the Chakra Fruit for himself? Not only that, how is Jura going to be able to procure a Chakra Fruit in the first place? The only way to do it would be to devour Kawaki, of course. However, does that mean Jura has access to another Chakra Fruit? Because if that is the case, that would be insane. We don't really know much about the Shinju. We are still learning about them. However, with them having the ability to think freely, they are still learning more about themselves as well. And we're getting more information about these characters, and as well as more Shinjus arriving, like Ryu for example. Ryu finally peers into his instincts later on, where he does decide that the person that he wants to devour is Gaara. We do know that with Shinki using the jutsu to seal Gaara away, the only person that can undo the sealing jutsu would be Shinki himself. But now that Ryu is here, he too can undo that sealing jutsu in order to devour Gaara. So we're going to see how that is going to unfold in the next few chapters, because he probably does know where Gaara is at, and he most likely will head toward him in the next few chapters in order to go through with his goal of devouring his target. Anyways, we jump back to the Leaf Village where Boruto is overlooking the Leaf Village once again, and this is where Kawaki comes to meet him. However, instead of attacking him right away, Kawaki confronts Boruto on why he hasn't told the Leaf Village the exact truth on what exactly happened with Boruto and Kawaki. Obviously, Boruto has informed Shikamaru and Sarada and some other characters on what exactly happened. However, even if Boruto tells the entire village the actual truth, because of the omnipotence effects, most people in the village won't actually believe him until they see some sort of tangible evidence to actually prove Boruto's point. Because if they do hear this in the first place, this will create even more division and confusion amongst everyone inside of Konoha. The village is functioning fine as of right now, and to Boruto, that's good enough. So instead of just telling everybody, he will just take on the burden of being seen as a rogue ninja. And of course with Boruto, he is able to hold his own. We have obviously seen so far in Boruto TBV, Boruto becoming one of the strongest characters in the entire series, with him being able to essentially just teleport around to any place he wants thanks to him learning the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. He is able to protect himself without the need of other people, such as earlier in the series where he probably needed somebody like Sasuke by his side in order to get stronger. However, 3 years have passed and Boruto can clearly hold his own and doesn't need anybody to hold his hand because he clearly has grown up. Kawaki then questions Boruto about Momoshiki, and he does note that Boruto cannot control his karma. And this is where Boruto does go into depth about why he doesn't use his karma anymore, which is good information because we have kind of come to that conclusion since we have already seen that Boruto just doesn't use his karma whenever he does battle. Boruto explains that a few years ago during the time skip period between part 1 and TBV, when Sasuke and him were fighting Code, Boruto did activate the karma for the first time since he left the Leaf Village. However, that's when he sensed Momoshiki taking control over his body, and he got a similar feeling to whenever it happened earlier. And this feeling Boruto describes is where Boruto stopped being who he is and he begins to die, even though he is still conscious and aware of his own surroundings. And due to these negative side effects, this is why Boruto doesn't use his karma anymore, simply because that karma essentially gives Momoshiki a door to walk through and allow Boruto to lose control over his own body. And this is where Boruto goes even to more depth with Momoshiki, as he explains that Momoshiki has been completely quiet for the past 3 years, which is interesting and odd to me because at the end of part 1, Momoshiki was on Boruto's ass. He was roasting him, he was insulting him. Whenever Boruto messed up, Momoshiki was right there to get inside of his head. He was trash talking him, especially once the omnipotence occurred. However, I feel like with Boruto accepting his fate of the omnipotence, it seemed like that actually shut up Momoshiki according to Boruto, because Momoshiki has been completely quiet for the past 3 years, which means that he is clearly scheming, and he probably understands that all it takes is just a little bit of effort for Boruto to 1, lose consciousness, or 2, activate his karma to allow Momoshiki to finally awaken. We are finally getting more hints about Momoshiki and why he hasn't really been shown into Blue Vortex so far, as this is a character that is very vital to Boruto and of course the entire story. He is the main reason why this has all happened in the first place, of course, due to Kawaki wanting to take down Boruto, due to Momoshiki and Boruto not being able to control him at all. Boruto even theorizes that activating the karma will allow Momoshiki to emerge, as we saw when Kawaki tried to attack Boruto, and once he activated his karma and immediately left the battlefield. And you saw he was clearly grabbing his body, as it looked like he was losing control over his own body. This only adds more to Boruto's point on this theory that activating the karma will only allow Momo to appear, which would be of course very bad for the Leaf Village. Boruto then tells Kawaki that he cannot take down Jura himself, and as well as the other Shinjus, simply because Boruto realizes that he just isn't strong enough, and in order to take them down, he will need the help of Kawaki, of course. Even though Momoshiki is proven to be a threat, the biggest problem right now is the Divine Tree people, because they are a threat right now. Momoshiki is a problem, of course, but as long as Boruto does not use his karma, the Momoshiki dilemma won't be worried about for a while at least, and until they defeat the Shinjus and or if Boruto loses control over his body, Boruto does give permission to Kawaki that if Momoshiki ever comes out, that Kawaki could go for the kill. Boruto then tells Kawaki that he must get stronger since he is Naruto's student after all, and in order to do that, he would have to unseal Naruto and get him to train him. However, this isn't a realistic option considering that there is Shinju's ready to attack the village whenever, and same thing goes for Code as well. So that would take way too long. And this is where Boruto drops the bomb on Kawaki's true strength, where he does reveal that Amato has been limiting Kawaki's offensive abilities. We discovered that in addition to putting limiters on his overall offensive strength, Amato has also adjusted his defensive and regenerative abilities to above maximum levels. This is why whenever Jura or Boruto destroy Kawaki at will, he is able to get up right away. Obviously, that does make him a lot stronger on the defensive side. However, offensively, he has been completely weakened, which as a Kawaki fan, I am glad to hear that he has been essentially nerfed, at least offensive wise. Defensively, he got a lot of buffs. However, I'm not too worried about that simply because as long as he improves his offensive ability, that defensive stuff will come along. Hearing that as a Kawaki fan, that makes me glad because I was getting too worried about the fact that Kawaki has fallen behind on not just Boruto but the other enemies as well, such as Code and the other Shinjus. Kawaki realizes that the reason why Amato nerfed his offensive abilities is because he cannot die for Amato's own personal goals, which is why Amato gave Kawaki the karma seal in the first place. And we even see Amato peering through Kawaki's eyes while Kawaki is talking to Boruto, where we discover that Amato is using cameras through Kawaki's perspective to see what Kawaki is doing at any given time. With Boruto discovering this flaw within Kawaki's offensive abilities, Amato realizes that Kashin Koji is also alive as well, as one of Koji's toads was killed by Kawaki, which was seen by Amato using the cameras that was installed through Kawaki's eyes, meaning that Amato does know that Kashin Koji is still somewhere alive in the story, which is hard for Amato to believe simply because the entire reason why Kashin Koji was created was to take down Jigen. After Jigen was killed and Ishiki was introduced into the story, Kashin Koji's purpose was no more, and this is where it was expected for him to die. However, Koji escaped fate and was able to help out Boruto thanks to his prescience ability. Kawaki realizes that Boruto is actually trying to help him, and he does inform Boruto that he isn't changing his opinion on the OTSUTSUKI. They need to be killed off, whether it's Momoshiki, Boruto, or himself. They all need to be eradicated in order to protect the Leaf Village. However, Kawaki has finally come to the realization that the current threat is the Shinjus, starting with Jura, where he does decide that he will team up with Boruto in order to take down the Shinjus, putting aside his goal of killing Boruto, which he did state at the end of part 1. And this is where the chapter ends off, with Boruto and Kawaki officially teaming up in order to take down the Shinjus. And overall, man, this was another great chapter. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex has been hitting each and every chapter. I would say chapter 14 and 15 have been a bit slow. Of course, I have not uploaded for a while, which is why I'm combining both chapter reviews. I was supposed to drop chapter 14 right when the chapter did drop, but your boy got very busy with school and I've just been loaded up with homework and exams, so I haven't been able to do shit, man. So now that I got a little bit of free time, I'm just gonna combine both chapter reviews. But if I do gotta say, this is another necessary chapter, especially when it comes to the information with not only Code, not only with Ryu, but as well as with Kawaki, because as a Kawaki fan, I was losing it a little bit. I was kind of getting annoyed seeing my boy get hit and hit and hit, not being able to really fight back against the top hitters. In the next few chapters, I do expect Kawaki to confront Amato and to tell him to release the limiters that were put on his body, because right now Kawaki needs those limiters to be taken off in order for him to fight these top tier villains, because as Boruto said it himself, he cannot take down the Shinjus by himself. He is going to need Kawaki by his side in order to fight these characters. So we are finally going to see Kawaki fight at a stronger power level. It's finally been way overdue for a character like him. He's the other main character of the series after all, and he needs his due, man. Boruto has been putting this series on his back ever since the time skip began, and I think Kawaki is due for his moment as well. Let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comment section below. What do you guys think about Boruto chapters 14 and 15? I think there were solid chapters when it comes to the information that was presented. There was necessary information that was shown in this chapter, especially when it comes to Kawaki's dilemma with Boruto and his want to kill him now that he understands that the Shinju are a much bigger threat right now. And let's not forget about Code, as even though he did lose an arm, he has been finally given another objective to fulfill, which is to kill Boruto and Kashin Koji. But will he be able to do it? And even if he does, will Jura hold up his end of the bargain and give Code the Chakra Fruit? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell as well, and have a good day. Peace.